Great. So welcome back, everybody, to the main stage. I'm going to wait just another couple seconds for folks to come back from the last sessions, and I hope that you found them to be meaningful. And again, one of the most important things we do when we're live and we're trying to replicate it as best we can when we're virtual is interact with each other. I know that some of the folks that I met when I was a Rising Bar president are the very folks that I leaned on during my year as bar president, and the very folks that I've formed some great relationships with, including Robin and others. So I hope that you Rising Bar presidents will do the same so that we can continue to just build those great strategic alliances. It's now my privilege to introduce two just amazing people, one who I know very well personally and one who I've just met today. But I know very well because I've had, as you do, the opportunity to read, frankly, his diary and to see a movie that is best a 2-hour movie can depict 16 years, does a really good job of giving you some insight into him and to them. But let me introduce him a little bit. Then I'm gonna start with Nancy. We'll probably watch a movie clip and we'll talk to Mohamedou as well. Nancy Hollander is the lovely woman there in the red dress, and she has too many accolades for me to tell you about, but I will tell you about a few. Her resume is available on the materials, and I encourage you to look at it because it is quite impressive. But she is an internationally recognized criminal defense attorney with Friedman, Boyd, Hollander, Goldberg, Urias, and Ward in New Mexico. As I said, her accolades are extraordinary. She's been interviewed and given commentary on as varied outlets as Court TV, The Today Show, and The Oprah Winfrey Show. She has handled lots of cases, some that you know about, and many, many, many more that are just as important that you wouldn't know anything about. She's argued cases at the U.S. Supreme Court and handled the trial level of cases in all courts around the country and internationally. She's handled highly publicized cases like that of Mohamedou Slahi and also Chelsea Manning. And as I said, many, many more cases that you wouldn't have heard about. But I think you know when you're a rock star lawyer, when the story of your representing a innocent person who spent 14 years locked up and being tortured is turned into an acclaimed movie, and you're played by Jodie Foster. And that is the story, or at least a small part of it, of Nancy Hollander and her extraordinary career. Nancy, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope someone from New Mexico is on.
Yeah, Natina Cruz is here. I believe we have an executive director from New Mexico. We may have 3 or 4 people from New Mexico.
Great.
So,
well,
New Mexico is well represented. No one from Mauritania other than you, though, Mohamedou. I'm sorry for that. I do want to introduce Mohamedou, and then we'll have a conversation. Mohamedou Slahi was born in 1970, and he really had extraordinary abilities and earned a scholarship to attend school in Germany, where he became an engineer and practiced there for some time, and returned back to his native country, Mauritania. And in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks, there's really no other way to describe it than he was kidnapped from his country. He was taken first to Jordan, then to Afghanistan, and then ultimately to a United States prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where he was severely tortured and otherwise mistreated, despite the fact that he was innocent, despite the fact that he was never charged with anything. It was not until 2016 that he was released and returned to his native country, Mauritania. Since then, his diary and other writings have been turned into a national bestseller, and the movie The Mauritanian has been released to great acclaim to depict a really horrible chapter, not just in his life, but in the life of our country. But there's important people in the story, and Nancy Hollander is certainly one of them. So Nancy, tell us about how you came to handle Mohamedou's case.
Well, I was looking for a Guantanamo case, and I was really interested in a trial. I thought there were actually going to be trials, but someone from who I knew from teaching, a man named Emmanuel Altit, who is portrayed in the movie, emailed me and said, the family of this guy is looking for him. They think he's in Guantanamo. Can you find out, and can we represent him? And it took a while to find out. We ultimately did. I think it was Terry Duncan who actually found him on a website called Cage Prisoners. And I began to represent him. Emmanuel couldn't, because he had to have a security clearance, and because he was French, he couldn't get one. So Terry and I started representing him. That's how it happened. We didn't know anything about him. Nothing. Zero.
And his was the first Guantanamo case you handled, although you have others now, don't you?
I have another one now, right? But his was the first. I got the second one 3 years later.
Teresa, can we show the clip of Nancy meeting Mohamedou for the first time from the movie?
Why didn't you tell us?
Or nothing. Like fantasy, yeah. None of that happened.
You signed them.
They made me.
They made you, as in they coerced you?
What do you think?
I don't know. You tell me. Did they coerce you? But you gotta tell me what happened, Mohamedou.
You asked me to set fire to this place, but I'm still sitting.
And then write it down. All right, that's what the pages are for. Write it down. You need to tell me the truth. You need to tell me what happened to you. I can't defend you. Do you understand that?
I don't need to tell you nothing. Whatever I say, it doesn't matter. This f***ing island, I die here. Outside my family, my brother, their lives go on. Tara's life goes on. But me here, I'm like a statue. Now you will leave too, and your life will go on.
What the hell do you know about my life? This is it. This is my life. I spend my time in places like this helping people like you. That's what I do. I don't question my commitment to your case.
The case. The case. The case. You're not committed to me. A person! No. You think I'm guilty? Say it. I mean, you believe I did all these things, so why the f are you here?
Wow. Nancy, I know you and I have talked about how certain things are represented in the movie, and the nature of a 2-hour movie isn't a perfect representation of what transpired over the years that you represented him, and certainly not of his experiences entirely. But what can you tell us about the first time you met Mohamedou, and what impressed you most about it?
Well, first, this particular clip is not the first time we met. The first time we met was when I came in and said, my name is Nancy Hollander and I'm here to represent you. And he reached out and hugged me and co-counsel, who was not Terry at the time, actually was someone else. But when I first met him, I mean, it was pretty incredible, because I'd never been to Guantanamo, didn't know anything about it or him. And it was in the early years, they didn't know how to deal with us either. Things got to be more structured later and actually got worse. But I went in with this other lawyer because she spoke French, and we stood there, and he stood up and he put his arms out, just like in the movie representation of the first time, although in the movie he does it separately. In the original, what he actually did was just put his arms out. You can't see them. Put his arms out like to hug, but he didn't move, and we didn't know what that meant until we saw that he was bolted to the floor and couldn't move. And we literally walked into his hug, and he said, "My lawyers." Those were his first words. Mm. My lawyers. And that's how it started. We didn't know whether to trust each other. He didn't know whether to trust us, but he'll explain that from his point of view. I didn't know whether to trust him. I mean, personally, I wasn't afraid of him, but whether to trust what he was saying, I didn't know.
Mohamedou, thank you so much for being here. I know that you actually left the celebration with some of the folks that helped produce the movie, and you are in England now. So thank you in particular for breaking away and at this particular time of day. Um, so many things I'd like to talk to you about, and we have a short period of time, but you are represented in the movie, and certainly your heart in the book and other interviews I've read of you show that you are a man of great humanity and even forgiveness. I wonder if you could share with us from what perspective you come to that place, and how, after all that you've been through, you're able to walk that out.
First, I would like to thank you very much for having me. I feel already the warm welcome, and this is the first time I speak with a reliable internet connection. So, Nancy has been very frustrated with the internet connection in Mauritania, because I say one thing and many things go away, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. We just have to postpone our conversations to another time. This is the first time, that I'm speaking, and I know that you can hear very much everything I say, and I'm so grateful and overwhelmed with gratitude toward Nancy, toward the friends of Nancy here in London, who received me with open arms. They didn't even allow me to go to a hotel. I spent the 10-day quarantine with Susie, who is just a family, who is just our family. And then after that, Kevin insisted that I stay with him until I fly back. And I didn't know what to say. Absolutely. I was completely, and I am overwhelmed and grateful. And the irony of my case is that when I was kidnapped, it was supposed to be completely in secrecy, in darkness. And my family was threatened. If they say anything about me being in prison, they will be also other members of my family who were going to be kidnapped. And my family was living in fear. Even if they received letters from Guantanamo Bay, they cannot share them with the press. But now, not only is my case so publicized, but the whole world knows about my case, knows about me, knows about Nancy. And I always joke with Nancy, because people reach out to me. They say, "Oh, Mohamedou, I cried through the movie and I want to be a lawyer." And I was, okay. So no one wants to be a detainee. So, and so many people in Mauritania and around the world, they changed their major. They want to be lawyers.
Wow.
This is so amazing, because, when you see that we as regular people, we don't have the police, we don't have weapons, we don't have grenades, we don't have airplanes, we only have the law. And if the law fails us, we're very much screwed. And the lawyers are the one who are going to defend us, and who are going to be the one who simply mitigate the full force of and violence of the state. And
right.
I can say that I did not appreciate it before this kidnapping, but now I appreciate it. And I can tell that without the brave American lawyers, I would never be talking to you. Nancy and I, we know on record that 2005, the US government knows that there is no evidence I have done anything against them. But yet they kept me in prison, because to them, my life has no value. In that time, between 2005 and 2006, and I lost my mother. The last time I saw my mother was in the rear view mirror, as the police, secret police took me away with no process, nothing, just because they could. And I
You
lost
lost
my father.
you lost both your mother and your brother while you were detained, correct?
Correct, that's correct. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful of you. And of course, I mean, this is a very long answer, but I just want to come back to what Nancy said. I completely trust Nancy the first day I met her, 100%, no question asked. And that's because of many reasons. First, she didn't give me any reason why I shouldn't trust her. And second, because when you hit the ground, and the very bottom, you can only get better. There was nothing that could happen to me that didn't happen already to me. And I was just looking, for someone, very much a savior, someone to save me from the hell of Guantanamo, the unpredictiveness of the US government.
Now, you had a perception and a faith, if I could call it that, in the US government and our system of justice before this happened to you. Can you describe sort of what your predisposition was, what you initially thought would be your experience, and then how that changed?
When I arrived in Guantanamo Bay, I was very happy. And I told other detainees, this is America. I used to watch the movies. I used to watch Married with Children. And I used to watch Law and Order. So I know two things about America. They're funny and they respect the law. And the little guy always has a say. And I said, this is only going to be very few months. They will know that I'm innocent. And then I will not accept to go back to Mauritania where I could be kidnapped. And I have a very reasonable claim to stay in America. This was very fantastical pipe dream I had when I arrived in Guantanamo. I never thought that I would be subjected to torture, systematic torture, including rape and including beating, with lasting damages, and sleep deprivation, and deprivation of my medication that I needed to mitigate my pain and cure my blood pressure. And it's just something that I never expected to happen to me in a democracy, in the leader of the free world.
Right. Nancy, in this day and age, and we've been talking a lot, and we'll talk tomorrow about just the increased polarization in our society and how everything is so political. I've been fascinated in my conversations with you and in getting to know more about the work that you do. Certainly there's politics, but it's not a Republican Democrat thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
How the work I do is political or is not political?
Well, yeah, let me ask a better question. It was not unique to Republican administrations, the negative experiences that you've had trying to get charges brought against people who are being held, or no charges and a dismissal.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Mohamedou was there through a few administrations. President Obama said he was going to close Guantanamo, and everyone was really excited. Only he didn't do that. He didn't do that at all. And in fact, his administration kept people in who they could easily have released. For example, in Mohamedou's case, Mohamedou won. We won the habeas petition in 2010. District Judge Robertson said he should be released immediately. And the government, the Department of Justice under Obama, under Holder, appealed his case and every single one of the district court cases that was won. And at that time, about 70% of them were being won in the district court. And they got to the Court of Appeals, which was very hostile, and it either reversed them, or if you were fortunate, as we were, remanded it to the district court. Now, all Obama had to do was say, well, we're not going to appeal them. And then those people at least would have gone home. And he didn't do that. So it's not fair to say everything bad happened under President Trump, because although at the end, Obama finally kind of churned up things and helped get people out, and had this State Department envoy who was working to get people out. But it really wasn't until the very last 2 years that happened. And fortunately for Mohamedou, it did happen. We knew it was going to happen. There was a periodic review board that released him, not a court, not lawyers, but intelligence agencies. We have about 13 of them, and this was 6 of them, or 5 in DOJ. We don't even know which ones, who interviewed Mohamedou. We presented evidence, only written evidence. His lawyer could not be with him except briefly at the beginning. That was Terry. And but they ruled, actually, we found out later very quickly, that he should be released. And what they had to find unanimously was that he was not a significant threat to the US or its allies. They weren't supposed to go back and look at the case, although they basically did. But that was a unanimous decision. And as a result of that, he got out. And it's unfortunate now that President Biden is doing nothing to close Guantanamo. He's not even set up an office, or if he has just recently set up an office, and I'm not aware of it, to get people out. A few people were released, but there were, I think, 11 or 12, no, maybe it's more than that, who have been cleared for release already, some since 2009. Now, 3 of those just got released, but the rest of them need to be released. And then there's about 30 odd people who have never been tried, never received a trial, never been charged, and the US claims that it can hold them forever. Those people have to be released if we believe in the rule of law. If you can't charge someone in the criminal justice system, they get to go home.
Right. Mohamedou, can you tell us how, obviously we see that you are doing so many meaningful things and speaking about your experience so that we can all learn from it, not just in the United States, but internationally. Give us an update on how you're doing otherwise. What's going on with you?
So, since my release, I really wanted to enjoy my freedom. And unlike many ex-detainees who decided to live away from the light and not talk about their experience, I decided I need to talk about my experience. Because when I share my story with people, I share the story of detainees who died under torture. I share the story of Gul Abdullah, who died under torture. I share the story of Daliwor, who died, who was beaten to death in the same prison I was in Bagram. And Gul Rahman, who died in the cold room like the one I described in my book. We know that several detainees died under torture. That's what the CIA admits to. We know also that detainees were captured and disappeared, and we don't know anything about it, nothing about it. So, and my opinion, my position is that this impunity should stop. People from the Middle East and from Africa, young people, should enjoy the same rights that you enjoy as an American citizen, that the people of the UK enjoy, people of Germany enjoy. We are a human being, and all countries signed that we are protected under international law and under our own laws. And I'm just using this. And Nancy and I, since day one, we decided we need, when my country told me you cannot have a passport because America told us you cannot have a passport, I said, no, I cannot be deprived of a passport without due process. And we kept fighting and we kept gathering momentum. And after 3 years, I got my passport. And then plan B, we understand that the United States of America warned other countries not to allow me, and they cited medical treatment as a reason for my travel, and I should not be given a visa. And again, this is a very uphill battle. It's impossible, mission impossible to get a detainee to a Western country, the closest ally of the United States of America. This is, I mean, I don't know what Nancy feels, and I let her speak to it, but to me, it's almost like impossible. I remember dreams. I saw so many times that I was a free man, and I was hugging my family, and I was trying to contact Nancy, and then I couldn't see the computer because I didn't know how to use a computer because computer changed. Because I want to contact Nancy and I want to see her emails, and then the screen went like blurry to me. And I kept seeing this over and over. Just like today, I think this is just a dream, because it's so impossible. I don't know any other ex-detainee aside from UK citizens who came to the UK, and I follow a lot about this. So I'm writing. So now I wrote Guantanamo Diary, of course, and I wrote Ahmed and Zarga, a novel based on the life of my father, and I write a play called Freedom for a Dutch theater company, and I have my own Arabic version of Amazing Grace, who is going to be played by the biggest orchestra, I think, in the world, a Dutch orchestra. And I'm just trying through art and through speak, to bridge the gaps and just speak for young people in my part of the world. And I just want to tell everyone that we want the same thing that you want. Nancy is part of my family. She knows my family. And this thing that all Arab and African people are plotting to hurt the United States is just wrong. We don't have time. We are too lazy to think about this stuff.
I want to ask you, Mohamedou, and then I'll close with Nancy about your spirit of forgiveness. I know that, and among other things, you hosted in Mauritania when you were living there, one of your prison guards who came there and spent some time with you and with your family. Can you talk about that experience and your spirit of forgiveness?
Absolutely. When Steve came to the camp, I was very damaged because of torture, and I was very reclusive. I was afraid of people, and I didn't talk to anyone. And I used to curl up in my cell and just stay all day long, not talking to anyone. And then he came to me. I remember I was in my bed, and then he came to my doors, to the cell door, and then he said, "Hey, what's up?" And then I said, "Hi." And then he said, "You drink coffee?" And I was like, "Yes," because I didn't want to be impolite. And he said, "Okay, get up." And then I got up and came out, and they offered me coffee. And they asked me, "Do you play cards?" And I said, "Yes, if you teach me, I know, because every country has different kinds of cards." And then he taught me Rami. And then our friendship started, then we start to gossip about people, about interrogators and about other guys. So he thought that interrogators' questions were kind of stupid and contradictory too. So, and then this is like in Mauritania, if you start to gossip about people, then that means this is your friend, because that's what we do in Mauritania. When I'm with my cousin, we gossip about my other cousin. And then when this cousin leaves, we gossip about the cousin who is not around. And then it's safe to assume that they gossip about me when I'm not around. But I told them it's cool, you can do it. And he, he contacted Nancy when he left Guantanamo Bay, but he was so scared he wouldn't tell Nancy who he was. He kept speaking in kind of unclear language of he wasn't, he gave fake name too. And when Nancy talked to me, I couldn't start with that. And I said, describe him to me. She said, I think he is black. And this completely misled me, because Steve is as white as you as they come out of the factory. And so anyway, so he trusts Nancy enough, and then somehow they communicated properly, and he wrote a letter, in my support for the board. And after my release, he visited me thrice now, and we are friends. I'm the godfather of his daughter. He's the godfather of Ahmed, my only son. And yeah, and we just, I don't think that it's honest if I don't forgive people, because if I want peace in the world, I need to start with myself. And you cannot call for peace if you have hatred in your heart and you want revenge.
Wow. Nancy, I know you have a long history of service to the bar, and of course, these are all bar leaders here. What message do you have for our bar presidents and for the folks that they lead? What can we do to be more impactful and to help against these types of things?
I think that it's really important that the bar encourage people to take difficult cases and to support, if they can, to support them pro bono. If they can't, for the bar leaders to help find financing for cases that are particularly important and need to be brought, and give support for lawyers for being creative, for doing things that maybe seem out of the ordinary. The bar is also the organization that disciplines us. And of course, we always have to act ethically. And that's really important for all lawyers to know, that no matter what the other side does, particularly in a criminal case, whatever the government, whatever shenanigans the government does, that we never do that. We never, ever do that when we're representing our client. We're always true to the law and the ethics, but that we also have to be open to representing people in difficult situations. And it's important. I think the bar in New Mexico is a terrific bar, and I've worked in other states, and I've not found that to be true. But in New Mexico, I really believe we're a good bar. We care about each other, and I think that comes from the top, and I appreciate it.
That's great. Well, I'll tell you guys, the Guantanamo Diary is available wherever you buy books. The Mauritanian is available, I believe it's on Amazon Prime and several other outlets. Just a fascinating movie. Nancy Hollander, Mohamedou Slahi, thank you so much for sharing your extraordinary story and your example and your friendship with us.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for listening to us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for having people like Nancy among you, and thank you for defending the people who are so weak and so vulnerable.
Thank you so much for inspiring us. We appreciate it.